I'm going to show you how to get into the perfect takeaway position every time with your irons and your driver. Now the takeaway, this area of the golf swing, as the club moves away from the golf ball to about halfway back, is important, because if we get into an incorrect position, it can make an effect and a change to your overall golf swing, which then can result to inconsistent shots or bad direction. Getting that takeaway together and consistent is going to be a game changer for a lot of people watching. The takeaway. As we move this club away from the golf ball to this halfway position, that's what we're looking for. I've got a couple of simple things to think about. First thing, we want to move everything back together in unison. We want everything to be connected. We don't particularly want the club to move on its own, or the hands to move on their own, or the body to move without everything else. So here's a very simple way of achieving unison in your takeaway. Take the excess clothing of your jumper or your t-shirt, presuming you've got one on, and take that and just tuck it underneath your armpit and then squeeze your arm so it stays connected to your chest. This is a great drill, but actually you see some players even doing this when they play. Excess material, tuck it underneath your armpit so that stays nice and together. Now if I just now, focusing on this connection between my arm and my chest, if I now just turn my body, already we can see that takeaway is in the perfect position. And what is the perfect position? Well, what we're aiming for is that club to be parallel with the club I've placed down on the floor, which is parallel with my feet going towards the target. That's the goal. We don't particularly want the club over here, and we don't want the club out there. And to get in those two positions from there, notice what I have to change. I have to change my wrist. And again, that could lead to inconsistencies. We don't want that. So keeping that excess of clothing underneath the armpit, then turning the body and the hips and allowing that club to follow together is how we're going to achieve that perfect takeaway every time. If my arm became disconnected, that's where we change the takeaway. If my arm starts to go out there, that excess has now become loose, that's where we get into that misplacement in that takeaway. So that's number one, try that drill, keep that arm tucked in and work everything back together, that's vital. Next thing is the club face. If we are going back and keeping everything nice and uniformed, if that club face then is changing location, if it's aiming too much down to the ground or it's up to the sky, it means we would have manipulated the wrists too much. The perfect position is in that takeaway when that club is level with the ground, is for the toe just to be in front of the heel. So it's the same angle pretty much as my spine. That's the goal. That's where the club face is super square. And a dead simple way of doing this, imagine this. For a minute, imagine your club face is a mirror. On that club face is a mirror. And what I want you to do is, as you keep that arm connected to your chest, and as you start to move the body and turn the shoulders and the hips, imagine that club face and the mirror that's on that club face is always going to be pointing back to the golf ball. That mirror is back at the golf ball. That mirror is back at the golf ball. And I'm trying to achieve that up until halfway back. That's when the wrist will start to hinge. That's where the body will start to turn and you can complete your backswing. So let me show you that. Excess clothing underneath my arm. Club face is a mirror, and I'm going to keep that club face aiming at the golf ball, and I'm going to turn everything back together. And that way I can get into that perfect textbook takeaway position. And with the driver, nothing much changes. The driver, it can be very similar in the fact you want to use your excess clothing on your jumper or your shirt, tuck it underneath your arm. You want to keep everything together on this side so that as you take the club away, everything stays in uniform and together. That is going to make a massive difference to the consistency of your golf swing. And again, like the iron, imagine there's a mirror on your driver face this time. And as you take that club away, that mirror is going to stay pointing at the golf ball till halfway back. Then you can start hinging your wrist and turning into the top of the backswing. Tuck the excess under my arm, mirror on the club face. And that way you can guarantee you get into that perfect takeaway every time. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you smash like, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want more advice to help you play better golf. Typical England, it's just started raining. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.